What's up, guys? So yesterday, Path of Exile came out with their Path of Exile Trade, which is very similar to Poe.Trade in a lot of respects. It is just done by GGG. It looks like this when you first open it, which is very similar to what we have here. You've got all the same filters and stuff like that, but before we jump into actually going through the differences between the two, let's take a look quickly at the Trade Manifesto, which is the post released by GGG alongside Path of Exile Trade, kind of showing the history of trading, where their mindset is now currently, and where they plan to go with the future. This actually does give us a little bit of insight into the habits of players, as well as the design difficulties they're having in giving us things like Path of Exile Trade. So first and foremost, they discuss that items matter and trade is important. They do want trade to be a part of Path of Exile, and they do understand that trade is a healthy part of every league and the economy of the game. But they do discuss that the consequences of easy trade can be pretty stiff. And they talk about the fact that 90% of the player base trades not at all or only a handful of times in any given league. And the amount of people that trade frequently, let's say, multiple times, multiple trades per session when they play, is less than or around 10% of the entire player base. So the vast majority of players are not trading at all or trading very, very infrequently. And if you are a part of that 10% portion of traders that are trading multiple times every session, hundreds, maybe even thousands of times per league, then you understand how difficult it can be to potentially source items. Even easy ones can be very, very hard to acquire. You may spam 5, 10, 15, 20 times to buy an item, and every single person is price fixing, AFK, D&D, in a lab, in a rotation, doesn't give a shit about your trade. Some combination of all of that makes it very, very frustrating to try to acquire even the simplest of items sometimes. So that being said, they also say that easy trade would make it too easy for those that do trade very frequently to quickly progress the game. Now, they're okay-ish with the rate of progression now, but if they make trade too easy, and it's very, very easy for the upper level players and the upper level players who trade to acquire the items they need to fully gear their character from leveling in the beginning of the league all the way into Shaper and Uber and other types of farming, like basically in-game farming. They don't want the disparity between the person who is trading and the person who is not trading to be too wide, because if you don't trade, it is probably quite challenging. It's going to take you quite a bit longer. You can definitely see that evidence from Solo Self-Found to hit the same levels of progression and the same gear benchmarks that somebody who is out there trading actively can do. And they also, last thing they touch on is they do not want automation to become a part of Path of Exile, and none of us do. We don't want Chinese farmers in here flipping currency and flipping items and selling it RMT style, and being able to do that through some level of automation, whether that's an auction house or some other format of posting items for instantaneous sale. So we most likely will never have that. There will always be some level of player interaction required in order to complete a transaction, and that has also been something GGG has been very adamant about in all of their posts relating to trade from the beginning of time. They do not want to remove the interaction of players while trades are happening, and they don't want to make trades too easy. So they go into a little bit of detail about trade itself, how they want to basically take trade from where it started, which was the initial forum post where people were linking items in their forum posts. Now there is still a lot of people who do create trade shops. Mostly people who do not have premium tabs are forced into this, but also they're aware of the fact that that's now mostly reserved for people who are setting up mirror tier threads so that their permanent items can stay static in there, and it has mostly shifted into the premium currency tabs, and those are all being indexed by Poe.Trade and other sites. they quickly describe a little bit about the pilot that they're testing in China's version, where it is a trade market. This trade market gives you the ability to search relatively easily and complete trades a lot quicker. The difference is the parameters that you use to search with are much more broad and much more vague. So you don't have this level of filtering. It's very difficult to find the precise item because you're not able to exclude the bulk of the stuff that you do not want. So in China, the actual the trading portion is a lot easier. The making the transaction is a lot easier, but finding the right item to make that transaction with is much harder. And here we have finding the right item is simple. You can easily filter out everything and exclude all the way down to exactly what you want. However, completing that trade is the problem. So they go a little bit in detail about that, but the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, there's a couple, but the biggest one is that from this point forward on the Path of Exile trade, we currently have the ability to see people who are now AFK, so their tag posts up in orange as they are AFK instead of it just saying the green online. And also, if you are D&D, your listings will not appear in the indexed results at all until you take D&D off. So this means if you are D&D, for example, those people that like to price fix and they have a second account up with the items they're trying to price fix, and that account is AFK or even D&D, and they're playing on their secondary account, that account is going to be highly visible now. You'll be able to see the person has a bunch of items listed and that person is either AFK, or you won't see any of those items listed because that person is D&D. So most likely these guys that are running secondary accounts are going to have to change their tactics up a little bit. I don't think we'll completely see them excluded or negated from having the ability to price fix because of this. However, it will make it a lot easier for us as people trying to purchase items to avoid people who are AFK that would waste their time in the very beginning, and B, immediately note somebody who is attempting to price fix by actually not being there and just holding down a really low price on a specific item. So that being said, let's take a look at Path of Exile Trade itself. And this is the screen that you get when you first open up Path of Exile Trade. And we do have two iterations. So we have one for items and one for currency. So fantastic so far. These filters are almost identical to the filters that you would have on Poe.Trade. So when we drop all these down, we're able to sort by pretty much everything that we would normally be able to sort by on Poe.Trade. We have, damage, min and max, crit chance, EDPS, PDPS, we have evasion, armor, ES, we have sockets, we have links, we have specific level and stat requirements, and then we also have quality, item level, different things that we are used to having on Path of Exile Trade have already been incorporated here. So, in looking at this right now, this part so far is actually very, very good and very much the same as what we're using here on Path of Exile.trade or Poe.trade. We have a ton of the same stuff, can still search by Althard, everything like that. So all of that stuff is really, really great. Now, when we actually start to look at items themselves, this is where we start to see a lot of the major differences in the two different search formats. So let's look first right now for a Vault's Protector, because I'm actually selling one of those, so we'll use that as a great example, that has a minimum of 6 links. So first and foremost, let's search them on both sides. So Vols and 6 links. So let's first look at what we know, okay? We are used to this, and we can see a few things here. First and foremost, the actual picture of the item itself is very, very small. And because we've searched by 6 links, this is really not important. We know that we're looking for a Vault's Protector, we know what the icon in game looks like, and we also know that all of these will be 6 linked. The price shown here is the same as we've always had. And another thing that's important is corrupted is very clearly displayed in the title of the item. So and if you look at this as well, the combination of the picture of the item and the nameplate, which is this information that pops up when you mouse over an item, this nameplate and the item itself cover roughly half of the information that you see. And then Poe.Trade has prioritized all the other really important information in the other half of the listing that you see. So over here, you know, if we were looking for a weapon or something like that, we would see the physical DPS, elemental DPS broken down. We'd see the APS, the total EDPS, total PDPS, and the total DPS. We would see the crit, etc., etc. And all of this is really, really important information, because when you're not searching for something like very specific, this criteria over here is really what matters for you. If we look at Path of Exile Trade, we see a huge, huge difference. First and foremost, this item over here, the space for this is like roughly 1/5 of the entire space is denoted just to seeing what the item looks like. This is a massive, massive chunk of visual real estate, which is given to something that we already know. We also have a massive fucking nameplate. Like, this is completely too big. Way too big. And something that's really important is corrupted is very, very small. You have to really be paying attention. If you are just glancing through here and not paying way too much attention, then this kind of gets lost in all of the massive amount of information that's been slammed in your face here. And the last thing that's really poorly done is this part right here. Now we're about to do another search on a weapon. You'll be able to see how much this actually matters. On something like this, it doesn't matter a whole ton, but on everything else, it's quite important, because this is the core critical stats. The core criteria that you search for are going to be posted up here, and it's very, very tiny. If you look at the amount of like visual real estate given to this, it is a fractional amount of the entire space. Like a 1/100th of this entire space is given to the core critical information that you need to know when you're looking for very specific items. And then over here on the right side, another 1/5 is given to the price, the person selling it, and then we have the online AFK notification here. See if anybody's AFK. I think I am. Alright, this guy's AFK. So this right here shows you that you can pretty much just skip this guy. Message him if you want, but he may not be there. And if we were to go down even further, you know, we can see mine. And then something I would like to do really quickly is just go D&D in game. Alright, so we'll refresh this search in just a minute. But it's also important to look here. We have a buyout of 4.9 exalts, which is the actual like note that you would have set on the specific item, is copied and pasted here, but it's also duplicated on this side. So that's not really that important to either see it, to really see it here. You can take this off and you can just have it over here, because we're already going to be looking to this side for the price itself. Otherwise, you can take all this information down here, which is really important. You can put all of it in this section over here, and then you can just leave the price down here, make it a little bit bigger, give it this style of graphic, and then, oh, we broke it. Give it this style of graphic, and then place it down here at the bottom. Make it very visible, and then make this entire nameplate much smaller. Make this much smaller too, and give a lot more priority to the information that's really valuable here. So again, this guy just went AFK. He was online before, and our D&D still hasn't processed. And see, we have the flip side of this, right? Where we're actually very clearly able to see all of the information. The price is pretty clearly listed here. Corrupted is very easy to see here, and a very small fractional amount of this real estate is given to the actual items itself. So let's take up another search really quick, and let's search for something that I just made, a one-handed sword. I just crafted one myself. We're gonna select rare to negate all the mathal items out of it, and then we'll go ahead and look at swords with 350 or 375 EDPS as a minimum. Now, looking here, we have a really good example of why this is poorly done. Because look how tiny this information is, and this is the most important information. Yes, I want to know what the roles are. I do want to see what these tiers are, that's for sure. However, we're seeing the price listed twice. That's not nice. And we're seeing the information down here is so tiny that you have to really pay attention. Now, you still can sort and everything like that. It's no problem. And now that we've gone D&D, our items are actually not appearing at all. So let's actually refresh this one again. We'll search it again. And now there's only 13 results because our 10 Vaults Protectors are not on here anymore. And you will not find my name up here at all. I had a bunch of them listed and they're now gone because I went D&D in game. So let's take D&D off. We'll be able to look at our foil here in a minute. And that does not happen when you go and search over here. So let's take a look at the same search for a one-handed sword that has at least 375 EDPS and doesn't have 6 links because that's not possible. And let's go rare to remove all the Mathel items. And there we go. So now we're looking at the same setup, but over here you have a breakdown of each of the elemental damages displayed right in front of you. You have the APS here, you have the DPS, the PDPS, and the EDPS, as well as the crit, all like right in your face. You don't need to look through here to grab any of that information. It's all here, so this is almost fully negated. If we search by EDPS, we'll see that we do appear, even though we were D&D and we technically shouldn't, ours does appear up here now. And it does give you, 451 EDPS, it's got the 7 crit, etc., is very, very easy to define. Now, Path of Exile or Poe.Trade does have some small difficulties in understanding prefixes and suffixes sometimes, especially when the prefixes and suffixes can potentially be tier 1 or tier 2. It doesn't have the ability all the time to accurately digest the prefixes or suffixes, but sometimes it nails it. So you would definitely still want to be able to see what prefixes and suffixes any given item may have or may not have. So I definitely see the need for the nameplate to still be there. But if you look at about how much real estate they have, they've given it a lot less visual real estate, and it's a lot more focused on what the item criteria actually fulfills on this side and the price. The picture is very small, the nameplate is very small, and this is the largest single section of the listing itself. So if we go back over here, hopefully we can reload this and see our actual listing itself. 34 results. Let's search by price, and we are back again. So since we've gone D&D and taken it off, for a moment our items stopped appearing at all, and now we are back. Again, you can see the elemental DPS, the physical DPS, is very, very small. We don't even get to see the crit chance. We have to look on the item itself to see that it has crit. So again, these are all things that you should take into consideration and should be taken into consideration by the design team in changing this around to be more user-friendly and to give you more information up front. Let's go over quickly now to the currency portion, and you'll see the currency portion of Poe.Trade, which we're very used to, has Essence, Div cards, and League Stones. And over here on the Path of Exile Trade, we do actually have a lot of the same things. Pretty much identical amount of currency available. You can also sort by sets, sort by essences, by cards, by maps, and by League Stones. So we still have all the same stuff, and then of course one for Divine Vessel down here in the miscellaneous. So let's just take a quick look at, let's search, let's say that we have Chaos and we would like an Exalted Orb, and let's return this search. Now let's go over to Poe Currency and say that we also have Chaos and we would also like an Exalted Orb. Let's go back here to Poe.Trade. So, first and foremost, some of the information here is not really well displayed, especially since Poe.Trade has already set a better standard. If you look here, you see that what you pay, what you pay, what you pay, and what you get, which is pretty much similar to how we have it on Poe Currency, what you buy and get and what you pay and give. The difference is we are looking at what you get and what you pay every single time a listing pops. So if they were to take this here and put it at the top of this column, and they were to take this here and put it at the top of this column, then you would just understand naturally that everything on the left side is what you're getting and everything on the right side is what you're paying to get it. The other thing that is a little bit weaker on the Path of Exile currency or Path of Exile currency site is that this is listed over here and really not that intuitive. Instead, they should probably mimic what they've done here on Poe.Trade and show you on each respective side what the valuation of that currency is. So your one exalted orb on this side is worth 75 or 74.5 chaos, and your one chaos is getting you 0.134 exalts. And this should be a little bit more clear and concise on this site here. So if they were to take this off and put it up here, and this as well, put it up here, they were to take this one over here and drop it on this side, we could probably reduce the size of this listing by about half, and also display the information in a much more user-friendly way to do so. Now, the biggest thing to take away from here is not the how this is displayed, but a huge plus on the side of GGG is that they can index your tabs whether those tabs are public or not. Unlike PoE currency, where you see people here have no stock shown, this guy Foul Power Siphon, Bucky Harbinger, Flesh Architect, blah 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 blah, all these guys are not showing their stock because whatever currency tab is holding their exalts in this case is not public. And because of that, Poe.Trade can't find out exactly how many they have. So this guy could have none, could have none, could have, none. This guy, Vinny Loop right here, we'll look over, has 13. And over here as well, you see that he has 13. Now, if we look at the contact here, this guy, Foul Power Siphon, does not even have enough stock, and Poe.Trade, or Poe Path of Exile Trade, knows that, but Poe.Trade does not. And this is super duper duper important, because now you can just use this for now to understand whether somebody that you're potentially messaging even has stock or not, or if they're even there to answer your trade. Because you can see there's a ton of people who are AFK and just simply not going to be there to take trades. So whether you're buying currency or trying to sell it, you can now digest who has stock to fulfill those trades and determine if you need to be above or below them. And you also know who has actually been sitting at their computer and is able to take your trade. If they're not, you can completely skip doing that at all. And this works really well for other things. Like, let's say that we have exalts and we want alts. We want a couple huge chunks of alts to do some crafting. We know this guy has exactly 891, but this guy, he's got 2. This guy, he's got 1. So these are not even worth talking to. And this guy's AFK. This guy has 7,000. So if you want some alts, you can definitely get a nice chunk of alts from this guy. Only 1,000 here. Has enough to make his trades, does not have enough, has enough, has enough, has enough. All these guys do. This guy does not, he's AFK. This guy does not, he's AFK. His trade is really bad too. 1 alt for 100x, nice. So you're very clearly able to see now on the Path of Exile trade who has stock, exactly how much stock, and there's no way for them to hide that from you in order to waste your time. Because if we look at this again on the same side, we will not see that many people's stocks, right? Bam Bam Pam, we don't get to see. This guy, the one that has exactly 891, we can see. But Golem Andy, we can see he doesn't have. But Flutran, we can't see. However, we can't see Freeze, right? So this guy going over here, he is at 871. His doesn't even index on here. Let's search again, maybe it will. No, his doesn't even index on here, and that might be because he's D&D and stopping us from even seeing him at all, which is most likely the case. This guy down here at 862 also doesn't index, so it could possibly be D&D, or it could just not be showing up on this site because he is posting his trade. Both of these guys could be posting their trades through the actual manager shop portion of Poe.Trade. So you can open the manager shop, you can make whatever listings that you want, and you don't actually have to have the currency. For example, if I wanted to sell Jeweler's Orbs for an Exalt, I didn't have them yet. I can, just post that I would like to buy one. I could also post that I would like to sell some. Let's sell some at 700, and then we would want one exalt back. So give us an exalt, and now this trade will only appear on the standard version of Poe.Trade because this is like innate to the Poe.Trade platform. So there's no way for the game to index this. Path of Exile Trade would have to first index what's on Poe.Trade and then import that, and they will most likely never do that. They will just take what's actually being listed in the game. So it's kind of an important takeaway too, to know that there is currently no way for you to set up trades through this that you do not have the currency to fulfill yet. And lastly, the biggest thing I think that's quite a black mark on this is if you look at PoE currency, right here up in your face is the 3 most important things about the currency portion of the site. Here's where you search for currency, here's where you manage your shop to buy and sell currency, and here's the information that you need in order to facilitate both of those. Excuse me. So here we have a huge long list of all the different things that you need to tag your currency with in order to buy and sell it for other currency that you may or may not have. Cards, leak stones, harbinger-based currency, all that stuff is clearly listed here in a huge document, and it's right in your face. And yesterday I was looking through this, and I actually couldn't find where the premium currency tags were. And today I did. It's this tiny little itty bitty question mark on the right side here, that is, giving a little bit of an like a little bit of an overview to help players understand how to tag their currency and how a live search is performed and what's like built into it. And same here for currency. And now down here we have all of the different currency tags. Now this is really nicely done. It's great. This is the information that you want, and it's fantastic. The problem is it's over here on the right side where nobody is really going to be looking unless they're like me and they're just out of places to try to find it. So I haven't clicked this. Track online status for live search. Okay, you got notifications, notification volumes, and you got the ability to clear cache. So this button right here should be moved and placed somewhere here or in the middle or something like that, and it should be labeled clearly with currency and search information, that kind of thing, premium tags and search help, etc. So that players that are adapting to this, that haven't been exposed to Poe.Trade very much beforehand, know where to go to find the information they need to list their trades. So in my humble opinion, the Path of Exile Trade is a great starting point. They have at least got us the functionality that Poe.Trade has to most of its degree, and they've done a pretty decent job at least getting the basics up and running. Now, I totally appreciate this from GGG. If you're from GGG and you're watching, thank you very much for putting in the time and effort and energy to give us this. I will use this, but only as a subsidiary, as a like a supplement to my Path of Exile Trade searches from Poe.Trade, because there's a lot of work that you still need to do on delivering this information clearly and concisely to the trader, and to the buyer. So when you're looking at some of the differences and comparing the two, I would say Poe.Trade is still the clear winner, and you can expect Poe.Trade to adapt the AFK and D&D applications within the coming days. These guys are pretty good about that. So once that happens, then the only difference between like Path of Exile.Trade and Poe.Trade will be the functionality and the user interface is just being significantly better at displaying the information that you need on the Poe.Trade site. But I do like a lot of the features that are in Path of Exile.Trade, and I will probably be running my searches on both just to make sure. And I look forward to seeing a lot of these visual improvements and information display improvements in the coming days, hopefully, maybe a month or two. And then I think Path of Exile.Trade will be the standard that we will use. I have broken Path of Exile.Trade quite a few different times, just like trying to sort items, like when you search and then you try to sort like this or like this, it's very easy to like, oops, something went wrong. Here we go, perfect. That took 3 clicks and I already broke it. And when this happens, you lose your like unique identifier for this search. So you can search again, but if you try to actually refresh, then it resets everything. So that's kind of frustrating, and a little bit of work needs to be done there, because I don't want to lose half my trades, the searches, just because I'm trying to sort by a particular way, and that kind of frustration is really not ideal on a platform like this. But outside of that, very well done. Congratulations, GGG, on making the first huge trade improvement in a long fucking time. And again, I look forward to seeing what improvements you guys make to this and where trade goes from here. But that's a nice little side-by-side comparison, giving you guys a little bit of an update on what came out, where the Path of Exile trade sits currently, and its comparison to Poe.Trade. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys on stream and in the next video. But that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.